Boston mob boss extraordinaire Whitey Bulger got caught is a huge, winding, wild story. And although it could start with him fleeing Boston when multiple agencies were running towards him with handcuffs, it starts with a woman scorned by him. After fleeing Boston in 1994, Bulger and his girlfriend Stanley initially spent days here and there while Bulger prepared to return to Boston, believing that it had been a false alarm. However, one night, his colleague from the Irish Mafia gang, the Winter Hill Gang, was arrested. Bulger and his girlfriend Stanley spent the next 3 weeks roaming multiple cities before Stanley decided that she wanted to return to her children. Stanley soon found out about Bulger's insane lies and became an FBI informant herself. Meanwhile, Bulger met up Weeks, the new Winter Hill Gang boss. He told Weeks, "If anyone comes down, put it on me." In 1995, Weeks and Bulger met for the last time. Here's the story, in Weeks' own words. "At the end of our dinner, he seemed more aware of everything around him. His tone was a little more serious, and there wasn't as much joking as usual. He knew he was going to be on the move again. I got that feeling that he was resigning himself to the fact that he wasn't coming back, and I sensed that he moved to a new place in his mind. It was over. He never returned to South Boston." Soon after his arrest, Weeks decided to cut a deal with the prosecutors and revealed where almost every penny and body was buried. Meanwhile, Bulger led the FBI on a wild goose chase. The first confirmed sighting of Bulger before his capture was in London in 2002, but there were many more unconfirmed sightings everywhere. At this point, FBI agents were sent to Uruguay to investigate a lead. Soon it would be revealed that instead of being reclusive, he had in fact traveled a lot. On June 22, 2011, Bulger was finally arrested after being a fugitive for 16 years and spending 12 years on the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitive list. How Bulger got caught was almost exclusively due to the Bulger Fugitive Task Force, which consisted of FBI agents and a deputy U.S. Marshal, and it took so much work. A reward of $2 million was offered for information that led to his arrest. This was one of the highest bounties ever offered for a fugitive. Bulger had been featured on the television show America's Most Wanted 16 times. Authorities tell us that his arrest was a direct result of this huge media campaign launched by the FBI in 14 television markets across the country where Bulger could have links. The campaign actually focused on his runaway girlfriend. The media described her as a frequent beauty salon visitor. Authorities received the best tip soon enough, and it came from a woman in Iceland who told the FBI that Bulger was living in an apartment near a beach in Santa Monica. The tipster was identified as Anna Bjornsdottir, a former model, actress, and Miss Iceland 1974. She had lived in Bulger's neighborhood. A day later, the arrest was carried out. The FBI used a ruse. Agents and other task force members lured Bulger out of his apartment. He was arrested without incident and without a fight. Bulger was charged with murder, money laundering, and narcotics distribution. Agents found more than $800,000 in cash, 30 firearms, and many fake IDs in the apartment. He was brought back to Boston immediately, and soon he started talking to the authorities. Many anticipated and feared that Bulger would blurt everything out in exchange for favorable treatment, and he would have a lot to tell the authorities about levels of corruption at the Massachusetts local and state levels, which essentially gave him a free rein to do his crimes. Bulger was held on trial in a federal courthouse in 2011 and pleaded not guilty to stuff he had obviously done: murder, extortion, money laundering, obstruction of justice, narcotics distribution, and weapons violations. These were just a few of the charges related to him. His associate, Weeks, said, "I don't understand because he's not the same as I remember him. I can't believe he's so chatty right now. So I don't know what he's doing." Weeks added that he's not afraid of Bulger because he wasn't like Pablo Escobar, who got up and out of jail. Bulger only made one friend during his post-sentencing detention: Clement Chip Janis, a young convict. When Bulger arrived at the United States Penitentiary, there were more high-profile criminals staying there. These included big names like Brian David Mitchell, Stephen Dale Green, and Montoya Sanchez. According to unofficial reports, Bulger was attacked by a fellow convict by the name of Retro, whose knife had pierced Bulger's neck and skull. This had sent him to the prison infirmary for a month. What did it mean if Retro had no fights with Bulger and launched the near-fatal attack? It was solely to put him in solitary confinement, where he could pay off drugs he had acquired from convicts. Bulger somewhat thrived mentally during this period as he started counseling with a prison psychologist at the Tucson facility. Rumors soon started that she was feeling too sympathetic towards him and had even let him use her cell phone sometime. Soon enough, he was transferred to the Coleman complex in Florida. Without his sympathetic therapist, Bulger started to have night terrors, which he attributed to the 1960 experiments where he had LSD. This was the change in him. He had started prison with a rigorous exercise regimen and was confined to a wheelchair. While napping, someone tried to steal his shoes. At 8:20 a.m. on October 30th, the 89-year-old Bulger was found dead. He was in his wheelchair, and he had been beaten to death by multiple inmates armed with padlocks and a knife. His eyes had been nearly gouged out, and his tongue was almost cut off. His face was almost unrecognizable. Finally, his journey had ended on a very bad note, a brutal ending for a man who led a brutal life. Do you think he deserved the ending that he got? Please comment below, and we'll pin the best one.